Yo, what is happening, fan base? Thank you so much for helping me hit 400,000 subscribers. And holy shit, we'll always love you. I can't believe you did this to me, god damn it. How could you do this to me? Psych, you thought. I genuinely didn't think I would make it here, blah, blah, blah. Very appreciated. Let's get on with the video. No one believes what YouTubers say anyway, especially me, who's a sarcastic asshole, and nothing I ever say is taken seriously. So thank you, fan base. Very cool. I can't even say something touching for once, damn it. Let's talk villains. But by the way, I genuinely mean it. Even if you don't believe it, like, it's insane. Thanks a ton. I really appreciate it. So as you know, every time I hit a milestone, which I've just done, by the way, I make a personal top 10 video. Even though I generally make analysis videos or satire videos, the personal ones show up at the milestones to incentivize subscriptions. Not that that really helps or anything, but hey, I'm planning on doing my top 50 anime of all time when I hit 500,000 subs, so, you know, tell a friend, make an extra account, you know. But in any case, my 100,000 subscriber special was my top 10 anime of all time, my 200,000 subscriber special was my top 10 controversial anime opinions, and my third milestone video at 300k subs was my top 10 main characters of all time. So today, 400k subs, top 10 villains, fam. And it's a lot harder to compile a list of villains than heroes because I genuinely like villains more than heroes. Hashtag relatable. Right off the bat, before I talk about number 10, I would like to mention a character from Gintama called Kintoki. Now, there are a lot of great villains in Gintama, and some that span over several arcs that have to do with the pasts of the characters, and it's like super touching and epic and stuff. But no villain in all of Gintama reflects the nature of what I love about it like Kintoki. And after I describe him, you'll see why I don't exactly count him on my top 10. To be brief, the Gintama anime, my favorite anime of all time, took a 3-year break. And when the anime started up 3 years later, Kintoki, the main character, shows up back in Edo, his city, goes back to Odd Jobs, the place where he works, where he accepts odd jobs. Yes, the name definitely is a dead giveaway, and that's what I call good advertising, fam. And he was replaced by Kintoki, where the main character is the silver demon. This guy's the gold demon, and he's somehow rewritten the memories of everyone in the town to think he's the actual main character of the series, not Kintoki. Well, Kintoki's not gonna let this slide, so he goes and buys the box sets of all the previous seasons of Gintama, the anime we're in, and he loads them, and instead of himself saving the day, he sees this Kintoki guy manage to video edit all of the previous seasons of Gintama to fit himself in the scenes instead of Gin. How crazy is that? Now, Kintoki's a bit of a slob. He's basically the anime personification of moi, which is why I love Gintama so much. Oh no! He's a sarcastic asshole. He doesn't take anything seriously unless he really needs to, in which case he takes it way too seriously. Whereas Kintoki, the gold version of himself, is perfect in every way. He's a gentleman, he's put together, he pays rent on time, all these things that Kintoki isn't. He's an evolved version of the main character that took his place, rewrote the memories of all his friends, and video edited the previous seasons of Gintama that he's the main character. Even in the theme song of that season, he takes Gin's place. And of course, the way they deal with him at the end is just incredibly fantastic, where they prove that Gin's unpolished nature is better in many ways than Kin's super polished nature. I don't know. I love everything about this villain, but it's hard to call him a villain. He was only around for 3 episodes, and he flipped the entire satire aspect of Gintama on its head. Yes, I'm talking about him here because he's kind of a villain, but no, he's not on my list because, well, I feel like I did a good job describing him, and you can figure that out for yourself. So let's kick things off with number 10, Doflamingo from One Piece. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that he's here, and yes, I picked him over Katakuri. Even though I prefer Katakuri as a character, I prefer Doflamingo as a villain. This guy is the ultimate villain in a One Piece world, where so much is about social manipulation as opposed to strength. He's nowhere near as powerful as the Marine Admirals or the Yonko, but at the same time, as far as a menacing villain, in my personal humble take, he takes the cake. There's a social hierarchy
hierarchy in One Piece, where the celestial dragons are on top of it all, and they're these posh bastards that everyone hates. They're the embodiment of prick nobility. So, Doflamingo's father was one of these people, and he was actually a good one. He saw the celestial dragons for the scum they were, the way they treated commoners and so forth, so he decided he would live among commoners. He didn't want to be part of these vile people. So, after joining the commoners, well, they didn't like the celestial dragons. No, not at all. And they didn't take it kindly that this former celestial dragon decided he would lower himself to their level. So, they definitely took their wrath out on him and his children, one of which being Doflamingo. Doflamingo, as a kid, hated his very existence. His mother eventually died of sickness. His father was tortured by the passing of his mother, as well as how he was treated by the commoners, and when he requested to reclaim status as a celestial dragon, they turned him away. At this point, he was just a commoner scum. This is when Doflamingo decided to kill his father and end the torturous background he had. Doflamingo rose in ranks as one of the 7 warlords of the sea. He ended up taking control of a country, literally making it his plaything. He's an ambitious man. He positioned himself in a very important and crucial place as a essential right-hand man to Kaido, one of the emperors, while also under protection of the world government as a warlord. He's an absolute mastermind, aside from the fact that his extremely justified background makes him hate everything there is to society.
Leave me alone, you idiot! I'm tired of your crap!
He hates the celestial dragons for what they were, as well as what they are. He was able to see the celestial dragons from the perspective of a celestial dragon, as well as from the perspective of a commoner. Not only that, but they weren't willing to offer a helping hand to his father, who was clearly nearing the end of his life. But he also hated the commoners for the way they treated a fellow commoner, and it's because of this that he became one of the greatest villains of all time. This puts Doflamingo as my 10th favorite villain ever. Number 9, we have Shogo Makishima from Psycho Pass. Now, Psycho Pass is a dope anime. A lot of people do not watch it, being that it came out in 2013, but unfortunately, they are missing out on an actual classic. It's in a dystopian future where there's something called the Sybil system. The Sybil system gauges everyone's criminal tendencies by reading their psyche, and if someone's number is too high, well... Fuck you! Then they immediately lock them up. This guy is a potential threat to society, not worth keeping him around. But being that it's a psychoanalysis of people, and it's done by machines, at least so we thought, it has its flaws. In episode 1, we learn of these flaws when there's a girl who's sexually assaulted by a dude. Now, this dude is obviously deemed as a latent criminal by the Sybil system and taken into custody, but after the horrid act that was afflicted to this woman, unfortunately, the woman's psyche were a little disturbed, and they went above the safe zone. This woman was also locked up as a latent criminal after this. In a nutshell, Psycho Pass's society is freaking cool because there are so many upsides, but so many tragic downsides. Once we become slightly immersed into this fascinating society and its ups and downs, we get introduced to Makishima, who flips everything on its head. This guy always retains composure and is unaffected by the Sybil system. He's the most horrible, vile human being ever, but because of his insane composure, he can never be registered as a latent criminal. And therefore, the guns of the police officers can't even shoot him, because they can only fire against someone who is deemed a bad guy.
I'm gonna shoot this baby. Why won't it let me shoot the baby?
Makishima is a villain because of all the horrible things he does, but he also tears open the gaping wounds in society. There's one very vivid scene where he walks up to someone in a crowded street and he just starts bashing his head in brutally. Blood is going everywhere. This guy whose head is being bashed in is not looking happy, to put it bluntly, and he does so until this person dies. No one around him raises a finger to help because they know if they help and get into this fight, all of a sudden they may be registered as a latent criminal and everyone be locked up, better to play it safe. But he commits this heinous act in public, so everyone watching's criminal number thingo rises. He does something so horrid that everyone's psyche is disturbed, and the entire town square is full at this point of what society would deem as latent criminals. They should all now be arrested.
Oh, watch your hands, boy! That's my. Don't do that. That's my lighter.
He wreaks havoc in a society that deserves havoc to be wreaked. He's my favorite type of villain in many ways because while, yeah, he's evil and he's doing bad things, he's making some very valid points, and he's also touching on a very sore spot that we ourselves have been privy to information of in regards to the society in Psycho-Pass. I highly recommend the anime, and Shogo Makishima is my 9th favorite villain of all time. Number 8! Very different than Makishima, Pain from Naruto. Now, I said I'm including one villain per series, and yes, my favorite villain in Naruto is Pain. It is not Madara, it's not Obito, it's not Orochimaru. Pardon me, I'm allowed an opinion. Oh yeah, this is 2019. Never mind, disregard that last part. This video is getting increasingly harder to script, being that I want to make like a full character analysis on every single character on this list.
Gusong. Yes? Has anyone really been far, even as decided to use even go want to do look more like? What the fuck?
So it's really hard to go through them quickly. I'm trying, fam. In my personal take on the Naruto series, Naruto's big climax was against Pain. I do consider him to be an underdog protagonist, and that's because socially, he always wanted to be on top of the social ladder, i.e. Hokage.
Hokage da debayo.
When as a child, he was at the absolute bottom of the social ladder, where everyone was staying away from him. When he defeated Pain and became the hero of the Leaf, this was finally realized. The Leaf accepted him, they loved him, and he was an absolute mad lad. Now, from Naruto's perspective and his basic ideology, this is his climax. It was never about being the strongest ninja in the world. It was about being socially accepted, and that's what this did. Not only that, but this villain, Pain, well, he played another pivotal role in Naruto's story. Jiraiya, Naruto-sensei's former student, was Nagato, i.e. Pain. Not only that, but Pain was the one that defeated Jiraiya, and by Naruto defeating Pain, he finally surpassed his master as well as avenged him. Now, as far as a counter to the protagonist, Pain was pretty perfect. As far as a personal bad dude, he was also pretty perfect. He wanted a peaceful world. He understood that this cycle of pain was bad vibes, and it caused no one to be happy. If you attack someone and annihilate them, maybe it'll be a generation later, but they will try to annihilate you back.
お前はもう死んでいる。何？
死んだ天性。
So, he devised a plan. He's gonna gather the tailed beasts, create some form of super weapon, and if he holds all this power, no one in the world will raise a finger for fear of being wiped off the map. It's an extremely noble goal for this villain guy, and it's obvious that an ideology like this can be birthed from the backstory of his that we know. This guy grew up in war. His best friend was taken from him before his eyes, and he then wiped out the people that took his friend from him, in turn creating more people that wanted revenge against him. He figured that this is the only and pure way to find salvation. Not a salvation for himself, but a salvation for the world. He had a really cool arsenal of jutsu. We've never seen a Rinnegan. We've never seen a village-destroying jutsu before. This is pre-war, remember? Naruto's never taken an actual major W. Pain is everything I want in a main villain of anime. He gave me more than I felt like I deserved, then it was snuffed away because it was all part of Black Zetsu's greatness plan. Anyway, he sits at number 8 in my favorite villains of all time. Number 7. We're gonna be a little short here due to spoilers. Squealer from the anime Shinsekai Ori, also known as From the New World. This anime is a mystery upon a mystery. You have no idea what's going on until about halfway through the story, and that's definitely the point. I know a lot of people found it slow. I personally really liked it, and it's about halfway through the story that this villain is introduced. The whole show, if I'm not mistaken, is like 23 episodes, so it's not like you have to wait a long time until you meet Squealer. And the thing about Squealer is, he is completely powerless.
You dirty rat. Snitch. Stool pigeon. Squealer.
He said it. He said it.
all of, we'll say, humanity, for lack of a better term, have these insane psychic powers. Like, ridiculously powerful stuff. The Squealers are these were-rats that are intelligent and are treated as lesser creatures that don't have psychic powers. They always revered humans as gods, and they kind of did their own thing. As a complete surprise to humanity, one day, there was a bit of a rebellion, and all the were-rats, for whatever reason, didn't seem to be revering the humans all that much. Squealer was the mastermind behind this rebellion, and despite the fact that, you know, we were rooting for the humans, sort of, being that they were the main characters, we know about them, and they're genuinely good people, well, a lot of them, you know, the were-rats aren't wrong either. Not at all. I'll try to tiptoe around spoilers, but there's something about the human psychic powers called attack prohibition. One thing that every human's always scared of is that one human will decide, okay, let's kill everyone else, and they could do so quickly, being that, you know, they are freaking strong. So because of this attack inhibition or whatever it's called, if a human attacks another human, they die. It's bred into their genetics for the last 100 years, and it definitely stops these fights. Now, these powers can still be used against were-rats, for example, and therefore they're considered gods with almighty power. Squealer was manipulating them for a long time throughout the series. Even though he was only introduced as a villain about halfway through, we meet him at like episode 5, where you know he's planning something, and even though he's helping the gods, he's also making the gods do his dirty work in certain fashions. We never trusted this guy, but at the same time, this story could very well be following his perspective, and we'd be looking at everything completely differently. In the end of the series, when obviously the good guys win, because this is a series, and Squealer is taken to trial, they say, how can you, a mere were-rat, oppose us humans? We're like your gods. And he said, that's racist! I'm a human just like you. They all laugh at him because, no, he's just a rat thing without psychic powers and stuff, but it's revealed at the end of the series that the reason why were-rats look the way they do is because a long time ago, humans used their psychic powers and manipulated the genetics of other humans to look like rats so that their attack prohibition thing would be able to work on them. They're just people, deformed people that are treated as slaves. The main villain of the series could very well be perceived as a main hero, a hero that failed and a species that has no hope. That's why Squealer's my 7th favorite villain of all time. Number 6, we have Sosuke Aizen from Bleach. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I became a complete Aizen fan after I made like a 23-minute analysis video on Aizen, and that's one of my favorite videos. I was so happy with how it came out. Aizen's secret reveal in the Soul Society arc, I still believe to be one of the greatest villain reveals of all time. The Soul Society was in complete chaos due to Ichigo attacking it to save Rukia. No one knows what's going on. All of a sudden, Captain Aizen, the beloved Captain Aizen, is found dead. Turns out, dozen episodes later, he ain't dead. He's alive and okay. Everyone's relieved for a moment, and then he wipes everyone out. Ichigo just got these like insane power boosts, and he was throwing around lieutenants and captains like they were fodder, and with his theme song in full blast behind him, he rushes at Aizen, and Aizen stops his sword strike with a finger, blasts him away, completes his strategy that he's been planning for, well, 100 years, and leaves. The reveal itself would potentially put Aizen as one of my favorite villains ever, but it's the psychology of Aizen that really nailed him in 6th place. Aizen is a tragic character. I know people don't really see that. However, being that he absorbed the Hokyoku, and that Hokyoku thingy gave him unlimited power to his deepest desires, when he fought Ichigo, a character that he's basically honed to be the ultimate final adversary for Aizen to show his strength, he beats Aizen.
Ow! Oh! Ow! What the hell is wrong with you? Are you fucking kidding me?
And even though Aizen was stronger and Aizen shouldn't have been able to be beaten at that point, the Hogyoku, who read his deepest desires, thought that Aizen genuinely, in his heart, not in his mind, but in his heart, wanted to lose, because there was nothing past that point. Aizen's a tragic character. Even though, in all honesty, he doesn't seem that way with his constant smugness, I genuinely feel bad for him, and he doesn't know how sad of a character he is. Aizen should watch my analysis video. Maybe he'd learn something. Anyway, 5th place, we have Gankutsuo, the Count of Monte Cristo. I believe it was 2002-ish that this anime came out, and yes, the art design is interesting.
Wow.
but it's a sci-fi take on what the Count of Monte Cristo novel is about. The main character is not the Count in this case, but it's a child, and the Count is this blue vampire-looking dude who wants to take revenge on people with epic strategies and stuff. It has one of the most complicated plots in how everyone is interwoven with someone else, and how legit everyone was having an affair with everyone else's best friend, and how it was all orchestrated brilliantly by Gankutsuo, the Count himself. The guy has to be in my top 5 villains of all time. I know I'm not talking about him a lot here, but that's in part because there's nothing I could really say to describe him unless I would go through every detail of his meticulous strategies. His meticulous strategies take the whole damn show, so it would be faster to just watch the whole damn show. It's actually really good, not gonna lie. Number 4, Griffith from Berserk. Now, I've spoken about Griffith several times. I'm a huge fan of his character, and being that you don't want spoilers, trust me, you don't want spoilers. I have a feeling everyone on the internet already knows the meme, so knows he becomes a villain. So that itself is not a spoiler, but anything else in the realm of Berserk regarding Griffith is a spoiler. So I'm gonna avoid that. If you read Berserk, you know what I mean. If you didn't read Berserk, hey, go read Berserk. But if you're the faint-hearted, well then I highly suggest you don't read Berserk. You get someone to read it to you. Now, before I get to the top 3, there are a few things I wanted to mention. Firstly, I'm not including Johann Liebert from Monster because I've watched Monster way too long ago and I would not be able to do his character justice. I'm not including Garou from One Punch Man because I do not read One Punch Man, even though I love the anime and people say I'd love Garou, which I believe because I love One Punch Man. I don't know him well enough, being that I don't know him at all. Also, being that it's my personal top 10 list and I get to make the rules, I never considered Light Yagami a villain. He's the protagonist. L would be the antagonist, but I don't consider either of them villains. It's just an ideological clash. And the other thing I wanted to say is there is a character that would be in my top 3 that I'm not mentioning due to the massive spoiler of just mentioning this character's name. Watch Madoka Magica, watch the sequel film Rebellion, and you'll see why this character would be in my top 3 that I'm not mentioning because it's a massive spoiler. Not worth spoiling. I have some integrity. Sorry, fam. And for the final honorable mention, Stain from My Hero Academia. I like how his ideology affects the entire series, but not top 10 material. Whammon and Gentle Whammon, the top 3. Yay, this video is way longer than I expected it to be. That's cool. Sorry, editor. Link to your channel will be in the description, so definitely feel free to impress the fan base with cool edits and stuff from here on out. Also, fan base, definitely feel free to check him out. If he's editing for me, he must be insane. In the good way, of course. Yeah. Number 3. It's actually Stain. I fooled all of you. No, I'm kidding. It's not Stain. Number 3 is a character none of you thought would be here. It's Giovanni from Pokemon. Yes, that is correct. Not the Pokemon anime that we're all familiar with. I mean, I guess he's in the Pokemon Generations anime, but it's mostly the Giovanni in the Pokemon Adventures manga. This guy is the ultimate badass, and I'm not gonna lie, the top 3 of this list are all interchangeable. I would not be upset at myself if I made either of them number 1. So Giovanni from the Pokemon Adventures manga is potentially my favorite villain of all time. Now, no one reads the Pokemon Adventures manga. It's a lot more, let's say, mature than the Pokemon anime we know and love. And of course, being that I can only include one character, I couldn't include James. But Giovanni is a fascinating villain because he's a crime boss like any other crime boss. He likes money. He's extremely powerful. He's corrupted so many people. A bunch of actual gym leaders work for him behind the scenes, and he ends up getting moved after his battle with Red and decides to kind of disappear for a while. Now, a lot of people think that's foolish, but one of the reasons why I actually genuinely like Pokemon is because Pokemon is the ultimate personification of idealism incarnate. You're sending your kid on his adventure. He's 10. Who cares? He's fighting crime syndicates. He's catching Pokemon. He's gonna become the very best, the best there ever was. Idealism incarnate. And it's this idealism that Giovanni threw away to become what he is today. He was also that bright-eyed, starry-eyed trainer kid that wanted to be the very best, the best there ever was. And eventually, through battling and connecting with Red, he decided, nah, this isn't the life for him. And so he leaves. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, oh, does he do so much more after that. He's actually Silver's father, your rival in the Gen 2 Pokemon games, believe it or not. Price, one of the gym leaders, the Ice-type gym leader at the end of Gen 2, is about to do something bad, and he kind of pops up, sends out Ursaring, and slashes Price across the chest for Price to bleed out to do what needs to be done. Giovanni goes from villain to anti-hero, to the point that Team Rocket has this major blimp that's about to cause catastrophe and stuff, and Giovanni stows away, boards it, beats the heck out of all the guys on it, and eventually crash lands it to avoid damages. Giovanni's body is never found, and he is never seen again. This is the very abridged version of the very epic character that is Giovanni. He's one of my favorite villains of all time, and I proudly give him the bronze medal, number 3. You all know I love Kira. This is not news to anybody. And once again, the top 3 are all extremely close, and he could very well take the number 1 spot if I wake up on the other side of the bed tomorrow. Assuming I sleep! But again, I made an entire video on Kira recently, so I highly suggest you check it out if you like the guy. But what I love about Kira is, about halfway through Diamond is Unbreakable, we take a bit of a shift, and Kira almost becomes the main character. He's the most crazy, deluded, perverted, bad guy ever. I do not relate whatsoever to his motivations. I do not understand his ideology at all. This guy likes blowing up women and keeping their severed arms. Not exactly my fetish. Not that I'm saying I can't get into it, if you know what I mean, but... At this point in time, I prefer women's hands attached to the rest of the blow-up doll. Okay? Thank you. So despite the fact that I don't relate to Kira in all the ways I genuinely like to relate to most villains, I mean, this guy doesn't have a tragic backstory. He doesn't even have a backstory. He's just a nutso with a crazy power. And that's what's so interesting about it, because we fit in his shoes so well when we're following him around when he's just trying to live his normal daily life. While all the good guys are out trying to find the serial killer and wipe him out, he just worries about living his own daily life. He has to make his wife happy. Well, his fake wife, because he blew someone else up and took his skin and whatever. This is JoJo's, okay? Get used to it. And he basically disappeared from view, stepping into this other person's life, completely taking it over, and he has to blend in. He worries purely about living his peaceful life and not getting interrupted by anyone else. He's also completely insane. Now, I love Kira because Kira is the representation of the dark side of society that we don't see. It's there. We all know Akira. Well, not necessarily someone that likes blowing up women and keeping their severed hands. I mean, it's a little out there. Everyone wants their kid to find a hobby, but I don't think that's what they're talking about. But the scary thing is that I end up relating to Kira. And everyone relates to Kira. Everyone relates to the guy that wants to live a simple life, but is also insane. Maybe I relate to the insane part a little too much, but I think that by the end of JoJo's, a lot of us are actually rooting for Kira. We've come to know him so well. We're welcomed into his mind. We see how he thinks. We see what he does. He's no genius villain, but he's an insanely meticulous villain, which is even more relatable in a way. Not everyone is a super crazy genius, but anyone could be meticulous. We all know a Yoshikage Kira, and to some extent, we all have our own idiosyncrasies, and that little idiosyncrasy is a mini Yoshikage Kira. That's why he's my second favorite villain of all time, and number 1, drum roll please. Yep, y'all know it is from Hunter x Hunter, ladies and gentlemen. It's Hisoka. I love Chrollo. I love Meruem. I love Shiapoof, but my favorite villain's Hisoka. And to fully get into the meat and potatoes of why Hisoka is my absolute favorite villain of all time, potentially could be swapped with the previous 2, but he's the guy holding the gold trophy right now. Feel free to subscribble. Hisoka analysis coming hopefully soon, but more likely eventually. I don't want this video to be an hour long.
Oh, really?
What will you learn? That your actions have consequences!
So whammon and gentle whammon, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for subscribing. Speaking of, feel free to subscribe. Hey, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Comment your favorite villains below. I'm curious to hear what the fan base thinks. And thank you so much for helping me out on this journey. Reaching 400,000 subscribers. I know I'm the sarcastic asshole guy. Nothing I ever say can be taken seriously. I'm told that by everyone now, and it's terrible. But I genuinely appreciate it so much, and I didn't think that I'd ever get to this point. Well, on to 500K, ladies and gentlemen. That's when I drop my top 50 anime of all times list. Hope you're excited. If you are, definitely subscribe. Share the channel with a friend. It's not like I'm doing these milestone vids as incentive to subscribe or anything, bakas. But no, in all honesty, it's just I'm happy to give back to you guys because you give me so much. Speaking of giving me so much, definitely give me your follows on Twitter. Link to my Twitter is in the description. Link to my merch is in the description. And link to my Patreon is in the description. I genuinely appreciate all the donations. You make it possible to help me continue doing what I do. Anyone who becomes a patron of any amount is invited to the Discord server, and I genuinely appreciate your help. Once again, link to my Patreon in the description. Thank you all so much for pledging. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for subscribing. Genuinely means a ton to a sarcastic asshole bastard like me that you can't take seriously ever. And the absolute most important lesson to ever be learned from my channel: remember to stay weird, fam.